Okay, so you bought the car from a dealer and you want some advice on how to handle dealing with the dealer who's going to put it right. So let's assume that we're talking about the car you found with water in the footwells. Maybe it was a bit steamed up when you got it. You wasn't quite aware that there was water getting in, but a week or two later you found there's water getting in and the dealer's offered to repair it. Maybe you've decided to get a second opinion on what the problem was, come to us. We obviously produce a report showing you what we're checking and also what's right and wrong, and also we do video footage showing exactly what we find. We show you where the water's getting in. Now that report is checking all the generic things on cars that we find of common leaks. Over the years we've developed a checklist of the things that we found over the years that are often leaking, as well as often we can find on our database your specific model of car and then check the common problems that we know from our database that line up with that. So use an example, on a Ford Focus we sometimes find the door membrane may be leaking, but what we would then do when we produce an estimate is estimate to fix the other door membrane, the other side, or if there were four, maybe four if we suspected that they would all be made the same, and often they are. So what I would suggest to you is to contact the dealer and explain what's happened. You may have already done that, and then it's a good idea, if we're producing a report and you've decided to bring it to us to ascertain what's wrong with it, to then let them know that you would like to do that, and if they would be happy to meet you halfway with the costs of that particular process. So at the moment our price is £150 including VAT. The dealer may offer to pay for that, or sometimes they may offer to meet you halfway. We're dealing with one at the moment, and that's exactly what's happening. And what the dealer's offered to do is correct the car for the customer once they've established what's right and wrong. We produce a video and a report, and that's important to get that to the dealer so that the dealer can see what they've got to do to put it right. And also the dealer can see that doesn't mean that the vehicle's conclusively put right. In other words, when we do our generic test, it doesn't mean that the car is completely waterproof once those things are fixed. Sometimes you have to find and fix those problems before you can then establish whether the car is waterproof or indeed there is another problem. So what you need to be doing is relaying that information across to a dealer. You can send them a link to our videos, so you can say, here's the problem, but we'll get this fixed and hope this is the end of it. However, I bought a car from you in good faith, you are a dealer, and therefore I would want the vehicle put right. I don't want water in my car going forward. So here's a couple of useful bits of information and advice. If you are going to come to us and get a report done, or you're going to get it checked, then we produce an emailed video report as well as an emailable written report that can be printed. What you need to do is email that to them, contact the dealer that you're dealing with and say, look, they've found what's wrong, this is what we think, we need to fix this first before we establish whether the whole problem's stopped. But I need it in writing from you as a reply to the email that I've sent you with the video. So I'll send you the video and the estimate, because 9 out of 10 times we can produce an estimate. I'll send you the video and the estimate, and then would you please don't mind if you could send me a reply saying that you're going to fix those problems, and then and I also want it dried. That's one thing that often gets overlooked, is the drying part. Obviously if you've got a car with water in under the carpets, most people, and I don't know every dealership, but a lot of people think, well, let's fix the problem and then the drying, just dry it out, get a suction machine. The reality is what really needs to happen is, if it's got wet under the carpets need to come up. So the seat needs to come out, and a lot of dealers would take the seats out and take the lot out, the whole carpet, because they don't have drying facilities that will dry the carpet in the car. So often they'll take them out, but you need that done so that the carpet's completely dry, and you need it done for several reasons. One, you don't want ongoing problems, you don't want corrosion, because a car's not always rust proof from the inside out. The cars are rust proof from the outside in. You're not expecting water inside the car, so you don't want any ongoing corrosion, and you don't want any ongoing electrical problems. You tend to find often that a car will have electrical problems because it's had water or still has water in it, because water tends to attract itself to electrics. It doesn't mean that the water has to, the electrics have to be in the water. It can just be that something under the dashboard's corroding because there's water, because it's getting condensation. Obviously you're seeing the condensation on your screen and running down your screen because you've got water, but most people are not aware, of course, the condensation gets onto all the cold metal parts and the cold parts of the car, and of course your electrics are cold metal. So if you could see the screen and then get a torch under the dashboard, you will see that the dashboard's all wet under there, and all the wiring likely is condensated as well. So you need to get the car dry 100% for that reason, as well as corrosion, as well as the last one is you need to be sure it's completely dry, because if there's water still getting in it, you may not know if it wasn't dry completely, because you're going to be putting your hand on the carpet and say, is that wet, or is it still wet? Is it dry? Is it not? You know, is it wetter or is it drier? You know, well, the reality is, if it was dry completely and it was dried underneath and it was bone dry, and I mean no water in it at all, then if there's water in it, you've obviously got another leak, or the leaks weren't repaired. So what you need to be doing is, then when you let's say the dealer's taken it on and they've said yes, they'll correct it, and yes, they'll put it right, and you know a dealer's got a lot of cars they sell and they're happy to do this. I mean, it's part of the trade. I'm afraid if you're buying and selling cars, correcting cars is part of your business too. Normally they try their very best to correct them before you get it, and you know, they may not have realised the car had water in it when they sold it. Maybe it wasn't raining for a week or two, or maybe their valet guy normally gets them a bit wet and they're all steamed up on the front. So you know, why would a dealer know? So but what you need to be aware of is the dealer needs to be accepting that they're going to correct it, and they're going to have it back if it's not correct. But what I would recommend is call the dealer once they've got it right. So when they've got it, you've given it to them, make sure you've given them the video, make sure you've given them the report, and then before you go and collect the car, call the dealer and say, hope you don't mind, could I speak to the guy in charge, the mechanic that's repaired it, or the service manager, or the guy, the mechanic, the garage that it's gone to, because you want to speak to them and ask for the guy and say, you know, or lady, whoever's in charge, and say, I'd like to know, did you see the video? Because I want to make sure that you've got it all correct, because often these things break down in communication. A customer will say to a dealer, the service guy, the dealer in sales, and the salesman says to the sales manager, and the sales manager says to the service manager, and the service manager says to his guy. So, and if you've got three things like a leaky light and a door membrane, or two leaky lights and a bit on the bumper, you know, it's very difficult to reinsure that it was all done properly. They're selling other cars, stuff's going on. So what you don't want to do is be a bit of a pain to them when you're calling them in 2 weeks' time and saying, hi, you know, I bought my car from you, we're rectifying the problem, and then it's come back again. Okay, so in a nutshell, easy piece of advice. First off, if you're agreeing to bring the car to somebody like us who's going to do a diagnostic on it, then agree with the dealer first that you're going to send them what's wrong with it, and then you're going to agree with the dealer what they're going to do. If you're not going to agree with the dealer what's gone wrong with it and what they're going to do, then, you know, sometimes the dealer may say, well, let's see what's wrong with it first, and then we'll go from there. So okay, fine. But at the same time, if the dealer's agreeing, yep, we'll have it back, I'll get my guy to do it, it's not a problem, then you need to be agreeing with the dealer he's going to do it, and then you need to be agreeing with the dealer where it's going and what's going to be done, and then without that, you know, you can ask the dealer once it's ready, can you speak before you drive all the way back to wherever to collect it, is it ready? And has that mechanic seen that video? And you need to try to talk to that mechanic and make sure they've seen the video and they're happy. Go through it with them. The estimate's in front of you. You've got it in front. Get the mechanic. Have you done the door mirror? Have you done this? Have you done that? Is it completely dry? Is there any mould in it? Have you cleaned the mould out as well? Because sometimes if a car's hanging around for a week before anybody does anything, you can find there's mould as well. So you don't want to get a damp car back with mould on the seat belts that's out of valet. The mould needs to be cleaned with an antimicrobial product that kills mould. So I know it sounds a little bit long-winded, but what I can tell you, it's a lot less long-winded if you deal with it right the first time, and the garage and the dealership that sold you the car gets it right first time. I'm not suggesting that we get it right first time, which is the reason you would have seen some of the video footage on what we do. And if you've had the report done already, you'll know that, because what we explain is that we guarantee to dry the car completely again if it gets wet within the first 3 months of us fixing it, provided you did what we recommended. So go back to what I said earlier. Let's say we found it leaking at a rear light. We would recommend both rear lights are resealed properly on anything that we know on that car that's obviously going to leak at the same sort of time. So, you know, as an example, sometimes a rear light might go, there's a couple of grommets, we say do them. So, you know, if you agree that, we dry the car for free, and then we look on our report if it comes back, and then we go from there. We know what we've done, we know what we've fixed, we check that, and then we go ahead and then look at where the problem might be arising. And one more thing. If the dealer agrees to fix it for you, get it in writing. Just say, I hope you don't mind, is that okay? Call the dealer, speak to whoever it was that sold you the car, and just explain that, you know, you're going to send them an email, and just can they reply to it that they're going to sort it out. You can then, if you found a third party that like us to independently fix it, they may agree that they're going to pay us to do it. A lot of them do now, because they recognise that we are a professional company and that we deal with these kind of things. But you know, some of them want, you know, they're quite within their rights to say, look, we sold you the car, we'd like to get it back and put it right. But you need that in writing. Ideally, just say to them, I hope you don't mind, I'll send you the report, or you know, I'll send you the information that's wrong, it's water in the boot and so on, and can you just email back saying that you're going to sort it all out for me, you know, because obviously, you know, if in 3 months time you've been back twice and it's still water in it, you need to be reassured that they've agreed that they're going to put it right, because otherwise, I've seen this before, you know, you almost feel like you're a bit of a pain yourself, ringing them up and saying, hello, it's me again, there's still water. You know, I think when you get the car within a certain amount of days, you are allowed to, you know, if you bought the car and established the problem within a certain amount of days, I think you are allowed to say, I'd like the car to, you know, not to have the car. I'm not suggesting you do that, but you could say, or I'd like not to have the car. So, you know, I either put it right, or I want a car that is correct, or I'd like to, you know, have my money back, give you the car back, and then we'll part friends. And then say, you know, I'd like it, and then go and buy a car. If you can buy one from them, all the better. You know, they say, well, fair enough. Then you know, you go back and pick a car that's similar or something that they can sell you. But either way, sometimes these things can be a bit of a headache. You might not think at the start, you might think it's straightforward, and so might they. But I can tell you from being in the business for 25, 30 years, and having cars come and go and customers come and gone, that, you know, sometimes a little leak can actually start as a little leak, can end up being a long time of heartache, you know. I suppose it's a little bit like going into the doctors with a little mark on your finger, you know. They say, oh, put the cream on, it's finished. Yeah, great. You forget about that, but occasionally they say, oh, that little mark's still there. Yeah, it's not gone. We'll do some more tests, and then, you know, test after test and backwards and forwards, and, you know, they realise that it was more than you thought. And that's kind of why you want to cover the bases at the start. So I hope it's been useful to you. I've just added that little bit at the end about trying to create a paper trail, really. If you're not getting much luck with emails, then I would say just send recorded letters, and that's just as good. You know, the old-fashioned pen to paper, or get the typewriter out. Well, you know, the computer out, and then print off your emails and send them to them. At least you can do it in a polite way. You're not ringing and, you know, hello there, I'm sending you a letter, I'm taking you to court. But at the same time, God forbid it should ever happen, if you did have to go to court, you've got all the copies of everything you've sent, so that, you know, ultimately you can show somebody who's independent the paper trail about what happened at the beginning and where you are right now. But, you know, to be honest with you, you know, it's not easy for dealers, because not all of them have, you know, had these issues. They all have had some kind of problem over the years, I'm sure, related to water. But, you know, sometimes there might be, you know, something where somebody's not been doing the job very long, and, you know, maybe they haven't been familiar with quite how much you know, potential problems these things can be. So they might go, yeah, get John to fix it in the workshop, he'll do it, we'll get it back to you, all done madam, you know, all done sir, you know. But at the same time they mean well, but at the same time, you know, it can be a little bit of due diligence at the beginning that can actually ensure that when they're saying thank you very much and on your way, that you are on your way and you don't have to come back, because nobody wants to keep going backwards and forwards with an ongoing problem. We get it, I'm not going to say we don't, and, you know, that's why we say from the outset, when you're doing business with us, we explain the whole thing, and we've got videos for us to show you that. Okay, all right, so I hope that was useful.